for coming and celebrating celebrating my uncle's life. I am his oldest nephew.
Nephew.
Niece, yeah. God, one glass of wine and I but anyway, Father Marty,
his oldest nephew.
yeah. Father Marty was only 10 years older than myself. So, you know, I know, well, I just gave away my age, but that's okay. So, you know, I remember as a young child, you know, this young man, very young, he was still a child to me, you know, visiting us, and, you know, children recognize other children, and even though he was probably a young teenager, but anyway, so I always felt very close to him. When he called me and said, Barbara, I'm retiring, or they're retiring me, you know, and my heart just sunk. And you know, I don't even want to tell you what went through my mind. Fortunately, I quickly recovered, and I said, oh my goodness, you've had such a fabulous career, you know? And so he kind of, because I could tell he was down. I mean, there was just no question in my mind. Even though we used to tease him, and he used to say, well, the Jesuits, you know, they don't retire you till you die. And but anyway, so I did say to him, I said, so what was your very favorite thing that you did? And you know, I don't want to upset anybody here, but there was, if any of you have read the memorial letter or his little the biography of him, he was principal of a Jesuit high school in El Paso, and they had to close it for financial reasons, and I'm sure it broke his heart. But anyway, they made a decision to stay in El Paso. Some of the Jesuits, I don't know how many, maybe somebody here could tell me, but I have a feeling there was maybe 3 or 4 of them. And he actually taught in the public school. And, you know, it was just a kind of a different ministry, a different outreach, and he just, you know, he said that was just probably one of his favorite things. But as all of you know, he loved people. And, you know, I think, and as somebody said, you know, he always had the perfect words for you or you. He could personalize, you know, personalize it all. He had a lot of empathy for the poor, for the handicapped, for, you know, anybody that was, you know, as a matter of fact, I think he really despised wealth. But anyway, it was funny because one time he came to visit us in Northern Virginia, and he and I got up in the morning. I've told this story before. We got up in the morning, we went to Mass, but we put on sweats because we were going to take a walk right after. So he had on blue sweats with a hoodie, and it was kind of chilly, it was cold. So we went to morning Mass, and then when we left the church, the pastor was standing outside just greeting everybody. And so he goes up to him and he says, oh, wait, I forgot. During the prayers of the faithful, he prayed for everybody who was looking for a job. Okay? So then as we're leaving, he introduces himself to the pastor and he says, I'm Father Marty Elsner from San Antonio. And the pastor says, oh, I thought you were somebody looking for a job. He said, no, I'm a Jesuit. I'll have a job forever. But anyway, that's, you know, we're all going to miss him so much. He was such a big part of all our family. You know, he married myself, he married my sister, he married my brother, he married my kids. And he's baptized, and, you know, he buried our parents. And he was always very creative, had his little prop like our deacon did this morning. Yes, exactly. So, anyway, next.
Woo!
You made a good segue for me, so thank you. As you know, you're standing in Brother Gus Hall. Brother Gus lived with Marty for many years too. Brother was here for almost 50 years. Marty was here in San Antonio for almost 30. So both of them, I don't know their trick and how they got away with it, but a Jesuit most of the time is moved every 6 years. So they either never answered their calls from the provincial or who knows what. But to honor Brother, since Brother had been here so long, we had named, when he retired, this hall, his picture's on the wall. The Brother Gus Hall. One of the last conversations, his anniversary of 1 year, almost, it'll be coming up on the 22nd of February this month. But I had called him once, and it had been a while since I talked to him. And he said, "You forgot about me. Do you miss me?" And I go, "Brother, you know I miss you." And then he said, "Well, what's happened with my hall?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you got my picture up there yet?" Because I had trying to arrange it. And so it's up there, but he said, "Well, you know, don't forget to dust me off." Don't forget to dust me off from time to time. That way I would see him and I wouldn't miss him. But I know Father Marty would not want a building named after him. That's not Father Marty's style. So I've decided something different. Father Marty has always been an educator. An educator. He may have taught high school and that was his great love, but then he was assigned to pastoral work and he's been doing that in San Antonio for many years, but not directly in a school. But he never stopped being an educator. And so I want to announce that in his honor, the Jesuit parish here of Our Lady of Guadalupe will begin, starting this year, a scholarship in Father Marty's honor. The Father Martin Elsner Scholarship. But it's going to have certain criteria. It's not going to go to somebody that's going to go to Harvard Business School, or it's not going to be somebody that's going to study certain things like that. Marty would then say, "No, can't do that." So it's going to be certain criteria like, are you going into a helping profession? Are you going to be a teacher? Are you going to be a social worker? Are you going to be a nurse? That's what we're looking for. So we're going to name that scholarship in his honor, and we already have a fund that's built up already, but if you do want to, okay, here's the pastor part of me, I have to make the plug. So if you do want to donate to this, you may, and you can make your check out to the Jesuit Appeals, plural, Fund. Jesuit Appeals Fund. And it will go toward that cause. It will go into the big fund we already have, and the interest that we have from that fund each year will go towards giving that scholarship. And there will be a committee. I'll invite certain community leaders that are around to help me in making that decision and selection. So, God bless Father Marty.
Can we send it here?
You can send it here.
Okay.
Yes. Who's next?
Let me say something else.
One of the things that I always loved about Father Marty was that when he went to a place, he got to know the school board, and I understand you served on the school board, is that correct? He got to know the city council. Because he was as concerned about what we call the temporal welfare of his people as he was the spiritual. And, I understand he was involved in the COPS program for years and years here. I have to say, I am a flaming liberal, and he was my compadre or compatriot or whatever, because we love to talk politics, and 99% of the time we were the same. But I think that was very important that he did that in El Paso, he did that in Houston, he did it here, and I think it really makes a difference.
I think there was someone over here that wanted to go.
Right, and right here.
Oh, right here, right behind. Oh, you can go first. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Fidel, and I used to live in Elores. I live in Elores 23 years. And I come from Mexico, me and my wife come from Mexico, and we stay over there in Uvalde, in Elores. And one day we started having problems with that's when we stored the Spanish Mass. There's a lady who stored the Spanish Mass over there, and she stayed in church with the Spanish Mass for 2 weeks. And after this, I started the Father Jack, and this annoys me the second name because all I know is Father Jack. He started putting flyers in the walls and also in the windows, saying that who is going to be in charge to the Spanish Mass, because this lady, she don't want to be in charge to the Spanish Mass. I don't know what happened. I don't know the story, but she don't want to be in charge to the Spanish Mass. So nobody said nothing. So one evening when we doing the Mass, is Father Jack show up over there and he said, if nobody wanna be in charge to the Spanish Mass, it's gonna be over, because nobody is gonna take it over. So we're gonna stop this. So I get up and say, I take care of the Spanish Mass. And so I take care of the Spanish Mass, and this Father Morris is the one who's doing the Mass. He's going from here and to do the Mass over there in Spanish. And we doing real well for 1 year. 1 year later, one day he said, I got too much to do, so I'm not gonna do the Spanish Mass tomorrow. But he not tell me, he tell Father Jack, and Father Jack tell me. But this is the only explanation I have. So I'm not satisfied with this thing, so I come over here and talk to Father Morty. And Father Morty said, I'm sorry, but I'm too busy, I don't got time, and so everything is over. And well, I'm not happy with this explanation. I want some help. And all he tell me, and this is what I remember him, and when you say that he is a good teacher, you're right, because he became my teacher. He gave me a very, very good lesson. He told me, Fidel, I know you want to keep the Spanish Mass going, but I'm sorry, I don't got time. So all I want to do is I'm going to give you my blessing and find a new way, because I don't got time, and so I think the Spanish Mass is over. So I take off and I start looking. I go to another parishes and start looking for help. And I find some help. The Spanish Mass keep going. And right now, it's not only one, it's 2 Masses. Because the Spanish Mass is getting too big. The father over there need to have 2 Masses in Spanish. And I'm not there anymore because my job changed me to Uvalde. This is why I got confused. I said Uvalde. If you notice, I said Uvalde a little bit ago. And that's because I live in Uvalde. And my boss told me that he's gonna move into Uvalde only for 3 months. And I'm gonna come back to Elores. Well, I'm over there for 12 years and I still but after this, like I said, because when I became in charge of the Spanish Mass, I never know how big responsibility is there. I take care of the Spanish Mass, in a little while, people come to me, I want to baptize my baby. And nobody is going to help me to teach this person to baptize the baby, so I need to do it. In a little while, here come another one, and I want to get married. And so I need to do the same thing. And like this, all the things that involve the Hispanic community, so I take care of this for 17 years. And I stopped this is because, like I say, my job changed me to Uvalde. But I store one thing, and I'm the guy who store the pilgrimage. Every December the 12th, we walk from Elores over here and from here to Elores. But I started, me and another lady walk the first time, the first year. And the second year is 3 more walk with me. And the third year is 5 more walk over here. And then the third year, Father Morris is over here, and he see me, he see us walking, and he asked me, hey, what are you doing over here? So I explained to him that we do the walk. And he said, you know, this is good idea. Why we not get together with Father, by this time it's not Father Jack is not there anymore, but Father Jerry Hemmel is there. So he said, why we not meet with Father Jerry and make this thing grow. Well, we meet with Father Jerry, and in this meeting, we decided we're gonna do it together. In 1 year, we're gonna do it this way, and the next year, we're going to do it the other way. So this coming year, if everything is okay and everything go real good, it's gonna be 30 years that we start doing this thing. Thank you, and this is why when I find out that he passed away and you're gonna have this mass today over here, I say I need to be there. I never know that we're gonna have this speech, but same thing. When I find out that after mass we're gonna come over here and we're gonna do some speech, I say I need to open my mouth and tell people who is Father Marty. Because for me, he's a great teacher. He teach me big lesson, and I don't know, knows me how I do all this. Because I take care of this mass for 17 years, and this coming year is gonna be 30 years doing the walking. And people ask me how I do it, I don't know. All I know is the old lady, well, look at and thank you to Father Marty, because he gave me his blessing, and right here. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Hi, I'm Gloria Martinez, and we're originally from Houston, Texas. We knew Father Marty when he was back at St. Joseph's. My husband actually, he's hiding. My husband actually played the mariachi mass there, and he had been playing it for many years. So when Father Marty left, the mariachi continued to play there every Sunday at 12:30. Well, when we retired and we moved to San Antonio, we heard that Father Marty was here at Our Lady Guadalupe, so we followed him, sought him out, and we waited for him after Mass. So as he came out of Mass, Jose and I walked up to him, and he looked at him, and Jose said, "Father, do you remember me?" And he said, "I sure do, and you're as ugly as you are. You're still as ugly as you were then."
Wow.
I like that there's nothing else. So, I'm Maria Tijerina, it's Maria del Rosario Hernandez Tijerina, and for short, Maria Tijerina. Father Marty used to call me by my entire name. I've been here, I was born and raised here on the west side of San Antonio, along with my brother Henry, my other brother Andres that's not here today. My parents settled here after along the time of the revolution in Mexico. They settled in this area, and so we were born and raised here. I came to meet Father Marty when I came back after being in the military. I was an Army nurse, and upon retiring, I came back over here to the neighborhood. And that's when I met Father Marty, and it was in terms of a phone call saying, "I'd like for you to attend a meeting." And that's how my relationship started with Father Marty. It was a call saying, "You should come to this meeting. You should be at this meeting, and you should be there." And I would say, "No, I don't think I'd like to do that." And he says, "Oh, you should come to the next meeting." I said, "No, I don't think so." So the meetings he was talking about was the Cops Metro meetings that he was holding here. Okay, so you all remember that? So eventually he volunteered me to do some work at the Cops Metro office. I worked there for a couple of years, and then my mother took ill, so I wound up spending more time with him, and he said that was all right, that that was what I was supposed to do at that time, and that he would keep calling. And he did. He would go visit my mother, and he would visit with us, and of course I would see him here at church. But he showed me patience, and he showed me to just keep on asking individuals, just quietly. You don't have to nag them. You just say, "Hey, I invite you to come to this meeting." So that's what I do now. Okay, I'm co-chair of Cops Metro, and that's probably because of Father Marty. He was a teacher. how many of our parishioners remember all the quizzes we got after each sermon? That happened quite frequently. So definitely a teacher, and not only to the larger group, but also on a one-to-one basis. And I have very fond memories, and I will miss him, as I know every one of you here will as well. Thank you.
My name is Patricia Massey. I grew up also here in the West Side. My daughters had the debut here. He did the pleasure of doing the mass for me. And a little story here, this little small, little tiny story. I would go into St. Rosalima Church, and just like the little kids, I saw Father Marty. Yes, he's here. Yes, I was so excited. I was just like, my heart, my soul just went like this. Like I was the only one that see him and nobody around did. And I was like, I'm here, Father Marty, I'm here. Can you see me, you know? And that's how much he touched my soul. I was so excited to see him. And he's gonna be missed a lot. But that's one of the memories I have from him. And I was like, okay, let's hurry up, gotta get it over, because say, you know, bless the day, you know. Hey, Father Marty, it's me, Kai, you know, from the Lady of Guadalupe Church. And I go, like he knows a lot of people, right? You know, like, I said, oh yeah, Chris is mom. Like, oh my God, my son, what did he do now? But yes, he did touch me and my family a lot. He was always there when my son needed someone to talk to. Amen. Lee, thank you. And just a little small story that I was just so much time with.
Hi everybody, I'm Sister Rose Quilter, and I'm going to tell you a little story about my first encounter with Father Marty and after my last one, which was at the funeral at Grand Coteau this last week. I first saw Father Marty in action in 1981. I was brand new in Houston. I was working at Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish, and he was at St. Joe's. And I went over to Mass at St. Joseph's one Sunday, and it was pouring rain. I mean, pouring rain. I don't know where he got the umbrellas, but what I saw him doing was handing umbrellas to old ladies going out of the church. And I thought, wow, what a ministry, right? I've never forgotten it. It was just so unique, you know? Honestly, I don't know where he got the umbrellas, but handing them out. And then after his funeral mass, I was talking to Father Ed Buvens. Some of you may know Father Ed. He was working with he did a lot of work. He was at St. Joe's with Marty, then he was with the JVs in New Orleans, and you know how much Father Marty loved the Jesuit volunteers. Father Ed is now very ill, and he's a member of the same retired community that Father Marty was part of. But Ed said the loveliest thing, and I think you can all relate to this. He said, you know, Marty was forever creating circles of community and circles of love. ¿No es verdad? Círculos de comunidad, círculos de amor. Yeah. Arriba, Marty.
I've been asking God if I should stand up here and talk. And he didn't say no. My name is Elsner, the same as Father Elsner. And so I feel sort of blessed in that. His brother was my dad. And Father was the baby brother. He was such a blessing to our family, I can't begin to tell you. So parents and grandparents and anybody else, understand that having a priest in your family is the greatest blessing there is. And encourage everyone you see, even if they're First Presbyterian, I don't care. Encourage them to seek Jesus Christ and to make that the most important thing. When we were young married, way back a long time ago, we were praying that one of our sons would become a priest. We only had 2 at the time. Now we have 4. But it seemed impossible. The pastor of our church said, we said, well, let's pray for Jeffrey because he's the second youngest and he's a nice old child and maybe he'll become a priest. And Father said, no, it's Michael. I said, Michael is a long-haired kid and he's a heavy metal drummer. Bassist, basically. I said, God's not going to call him. I said, I'm not trying to tell God what to do, but it's not going to happen. He says, it's Michael. Well, Michael now is 45 years old. His hair is almost, it's not long anymore. But he has chosen to become a priest. It's been a long road. And we're so proud and happy about that. And so I would wish that joy on any of your family, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your cousins, your uncles. Mention the fact that, first of all, what a wonderful life. I used to tell Uncle Penny, you don't have anything to worry about. Not to worry about what to wear. You don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. You don't have to worry about much of anything. He says, I have to worry about plane tickets because I got to travel all over the world with baptisms. And I think of all the Elsners and all the McGuires, he's married us all. That's quite a healthy number. And he's baptized many of our children. And so he was just the greatest blessing there is. So I wish that for all of you. That you, my wife called Father just before he died. She said, Father, you've been praying that there would be another Elsner or another relative to follow in your footsteps. And Michael is in the seminary now, and so we're hoping he'll be able to follow in your footsteps. Just leave the kid alone. He's got his own shoes to fill.
Hi, my name is Robin, and I was a Jesuit volunteer here at Casa Guadalupe from 2002 to 2003. And I didn't know we were going to get to say something, but I thought I couldn't let the opportunity to thank the community of Our Lady of Guadalupe and Father Marty and Brother Gus, because he is here too with us tonight, for changing my life and changing so many of the lives of the Jesuit volunteers who have come through. Truly grateful. I have a lot of stories. I suppose one story we'll tell really quickly. You all might remember, so the Jesuit volunteer who was at Our Lady of Guadalupe when I was here was Colleen Kelly. And so you may remember her. And back in the day, JVC South split their parties up, of course, by holiday. And San Antonio had the Labor Day party. And so we were supposed to throw this big party for all the other Jesuit volunteers in the South, but no one came to our party because we didn't really know one another and we're a little isolated. And so we had people from the parish come over and a few other people come over for the party. And about 2 hours into our great party, we set our kitchen on fire because we were broiling pecans that Brother Gus had very kindly brought over to us, but we had forgotten to check the stove. And so I remember we were terrified. We thought, truly, we're all going to be sent home. I mean, here we are, supposed to be serving and helping and being a part of the community, and we have set our kitchen on fire, and we can't use the stove, it's broken. And Father Marty, as only he could, very kindly found a used stove that he put in there, and he still welcomed us, and he still challenged us to serve and to be a part of the community. And he did have us over for margaritas soon thereafter. And that's Bananas Foster. I think he actually set that ceiling in the rectory on fire that night from Bananas Foster. But anyhow, I just want to say that this experience, I remained in San Antonio for a few years after JVC, and then I moved back to Montana. And a few years ago, I lost my father. He died of cancer, pretty young. And I felt like I had to come back here. And I came back here that winter, that Christmas after, and I came during the pilgrimage. And I remember Father Marty, I didn't have a car when I was down here, and he came and he found me. He drove me around. He brought me to the pilgrimage, and he welcomed me. And so I truly think that all of you probably have a story very similar, and you have all done that for a Jesuit volunteer. And so I want to thank you, and I also want to just leave you with one of the last quotes I found in some emails we exchanged. Father Marty said, memory is better than any photo on an iPad or any job from Jobs. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Archer Joseph, and I had the pleasure of meeting Father Marty in Houston. I worked with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps staff, and it was very interesting. I worked with Father Cy Hendry, who's a Jesuit, and we needed to go do laundry one day, and my coworker and I had flooded a laundromat in Houston, so he said, well, come on over, Marty will take care of you. And we were very similar to this parish. It was there had been a Catholic school there at one time, and it had closed. So he welcomed us in, and we were able to do our laundry, and he was so hospitable and just said, please, if you ever need anything, please come here, have lunch, this is your home. And I just loved that friendship. Well, then I came back home to San Antonio, 1989. So I've known him for about 30 years. I come back home, and he's assigned here at Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so just began this friendship. And I have to tell you, someone talked about the circles, Sister Rose. We had so many, I felt like just so many commonalities. I grew up in St. Paul's, I know the McGuires. And I used to joke around with him and asked him, can I call you Uncle Marty? Is that okay? And so I would, I'm sorry. But I just felt that closeness, that bond. And later on, he did the marriage prep for my husband John and I, and he married us. Well, the catch is we were going to Blessed Sacrament, and Father Jack O'Donoghue, who is in heaven, was also a very good friend to Father Marty. I had to get permission from Father Jack, and he said, oh no, he's a Jesuit. I'm not letting him in this church, no way. And I thought, oh no, he's got to be joking. This can't be for real. But anyway, he was so happy and willing to allow Father Marty to come in. And I tell you, the closeness, the community organizing. When I was in Houston, I didn't know a lot about community organizing, found out about TMO, which led me here in San Antonio, and I worked for SAISD. When I was at a school where we were an alliance school, so there was that involvement with cops and Metro, and our paths kept crossing and crossing, but I have to tell you, what a man of faith, and I'm so happy. I mean, I've been very sad the past few months, but I remember the words and homilies, and I believe the Mass that he had here before his despedida, he talked about love. He asked everyone to look at the person next to you. And I have to think about that daily because it's true. I mean, we do have to look at each other every day, if it's our coworker, our neighbor, it might be someone that we don't get along with, but just to leave you with that note of love, that it's all about love, and that path of love leads us to God. And I'm forever thankful that he was part of my life, and I thank the Elsners and the McGuires for giving him to us, to the Jesuits, and I send my condolences to Father Michael and Father Sean, because I know you've lost a wonderful brother, a wonderful man, and thank you. God bless you.
I'm Mary Wisniewski, and I have a link through the Jesuit volunteers also. I had to make a choice in Milwaukee. Was it Jesuit volunteers or VES volunteers? And I was filling out these forms, and it ended up that I chose to join the VES volunteers, which was a program that the Texas bishops had to bring nurses, teachers, and social workers here to San Antonio. But the VES volunteers were always friends with the Jesuit volunteers, and we figured out who each other was, And this place would be where we would have parties and celebrations and meals to just support each other. And so along the way, somewhere along the way, I met Father Marty in this Vest and Jesuit network. And as everyone has shared, his hospitality, his support were always there, and his smile. I remember his wonderful smile. And as the years went by, I still kept in touch with him. And the most recent exchange was when he would organize these November bus trips to Lost Naples. And I'm from Milwaukee, and one of the hardest things for me to leave the north, Milwaukee, were the trees. Because in the fall, it's just magnificent in Milwaukee, and the maple trees are so beautiful. And I found out that Father Marty was taking a bus to Lost Naples. For those of you that aren't here, it's about 2.5 hour drive. And I said, are you kidding? Anyway, sure enough, I had to be here at like 6:30 in the morning, and there was Father Marty in this old rundown bus. And there were parishioners, some families, some couples, so all different ages, and we were all piling into this little bus, and he was going to be the driver. So he said, well, Mary, you sit up in front over here, and, just kind of keep me going, So he had his coffee, and I'd hold his coffee, and every now and then I'd give him a sip. But it was just a profound experience. He had such a love of life, and he was so excited when we finally got there at the beautiful trees. And even though he had had all these heart problems, he was determined to keep hiking. And it was so inspirational to me. And he brought the love of nature and of beauty to the people in this parish that wanted to see trees and they could never see them, and to a homesick person that missed my maple trees. So for a couple of years, I would keep calling him and said, when is the next trip? When is the next trip? And he'd let me know so that I could join in the annual trip to the Lost Naples. So my last exchange with him is that he was an advisor to the seminarians. And I used to work next door, and he would say, I can be an advisor to you, even though I was a woman. I could still get advice because he didn't care. He was just encouraging, and I really appreciated that he respected me, and he would give guidance and spiritual encouragement to anybody, no matter if you were a man or a woman or a seminarian or not a seminarian. So he was really kept always encouraging me. And the last was, we were talking about Catholic schools and how they're closing in San Antonio. And he said, Mary, we've got to come up with a new plan. We've got to think in new ways. We just got to get this going where we can bring together different people to keep the Catholic schools. We've got to think of things in a new way. And I thought, isn't this amazing? After so many years and all the challenges he's faced, he was upbeat, he was positive, he was like, don't give up, and keep thinking outside of the box. And I knew he had moved, but I really, I didn't know exactly where he was, and I was heartbroken to hear that he had passed away when I saw it in the paper. So I don't know exactly what his ideas were, but I thought, just in his honor, I'm going to keep thinking of new ideas and keep trying to be positive and keep appreciating the beauty of nature and trying to smile like he did and be a welcome in his memory. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can you drive a bus?
I might have to learn.
Hi, my name is Tina Morales, and I'm the parent and family liaison at Lanier High School. I know you have heard of Lanier. We're right in his backyard. My first encounter with Father Marty, I came in 2004. I've been there 13 years now. The first thing they told me was, you cannot let the community network go. You have to talk to Father Marty. The second one that they told me was, if you're ever in a crisis with a family or a student, the first one you called is Father Marty. And I'm like, really? Because I really didn't know him at the time till I got here. And I said, Father Marty? And they said, yes, he's at Our Lady of Guadalupe. I said, I can just call him? And they said, yes. I said, okay, that's fine. So the time came that I had a crisis at the school, and I called Father Marty. And I got on the phone right away, thanks to Francis, who is always a welcoming voice. I got to talk to him, and I told him the situation, and I said, Father, is there any way you can help with some kind of donation? Whatever we can get, I said, the family really needs. And he says, I'll be right over, Tina, I'll take you a check. And I'm going like, he said he would be right over, bring me a check. I mean, I was from another parish. I've tried to get the priest involved with the school, and it doesn't happen so easily. He came over within a few minutes, and he gives me a check, and I told him, I said, Father, I can't believe you're doing this. And he says, why are you in shock? I said, because in a neighboring district, I have tried getting the priest, the clergy, in reality, involved with the schools, and it doesn't happen so easily, and you came right over. And he says, well, is that not enough? I said, no, I'm not saying that. I said, I'm just not used to it. I said, yes, I'll take it. I said, but it's still a shock to me. Tina, always remember. And I said, what, Father? He says, I'm of the Jesuit order. We have money. And I said, okay, Father, I'll remember that, but you know that I'll only call you when I really need it. And he says, keep that in mind. And I said, okay, Father. And he says, I'm not talking about anybody else, I'm just telling you. And I said, okay. So of course, situations kept coming up. Every month we would have our community network meeting. And he was, not by accident, he was our chairman. And so I would see him coming, and I would say, okay, I think I have the agenda, I think I have this, I think I have, relax, Tina, it's just a meeting. I said, I know, Father, but again, I wasn't used to having a priest come over and be part of the community, be part of the school. And then my other experience was going to my first football game when I had to sit next to a priest. And I'm like, oh my God, Father Marty's sitting next to me. And then I thought, Father, I'm not quite used to sitting next to a priest at a football game. And I get kind of loud sometimes, and I'm an active spectator. Don't worry, Tina, I get just as loud. I said, really? And he said, yes. So he taught me a lot of humanity from the, I'm sorry to say, from the priesthood, because you don't get that everywhere. And he makes a big void. He went to all the football games, basketball games, he was there. And our community network has expanded. Now it's called the Barrio West Network. We're involved with all the organizations that are within the boundaries of Lanier and outside the boundaries. Anyone that reaches out to us, or we reach out to them. But he kept this going. Dr. Starks left earlier, but it was herself and him that started the community network, because she needed help when she was principal at Lanier. And so far, she's been the one that's been there the longest. I think it was 5 years, right? I think, Patty, that Dr. Starks was there. He went over and he must have blessed it, because it started shaping up. And so he was always around. He could walk into Lanier at any time, and it was not unusual. And so that void is going to be felt, has been felt, because it hasn't been the same. The other is, it has expanded, so he's smiling about that. I'm glad that it was mentioned that there will be a scholarship fund. And if we can do anything to encourage any of our students, of course, not all of them are going to your tier 1 universities, but as long as they get an education, I think that's something he would want. And so there again, if we can help in any way, I know a perfect chairman, I'm not gonna mention her name, but she'll make sure, because if anybody was the biggest fan of our Lanier folks, it was Father Marty. And the athletes will miss him. He also he didn't see any difference in any faith as long as you had faith. And I know that he could tell if I was down on the telephone, and he would say, Tina, it'll all be taken care of. I said, I know, Father. He says, just pray. Again, everybody said, just pray. I was going like, but am I praying the right way? I don't know. And then he would tell me, well, I'll be praying for you, no matter what the situation was. So I know now I can really ask for help in my prayers because he's there. And there's not enough words. I think I could probably write a book with all the experiences he has had in our high school. And he would always remind me that he taught at a public high school and that we were not any different. We could do so much for our students. And it's just that passion that he brings along with him that just kind of makes everybody feel the same. So I thank the family, first of all, for sharing Father Marty with us, because he just meant everything to us. And we just don't have the words to say it all, but thank you so much.
My name's Patty Radel, and my husband Rod and I have been members of the parish since 1969, and live close by. Father Marty involved himself in our lives and the work we do at inner city development in so many, many different ways. He was part of the fast that we do to raise all the funds for the emergency food pantry. He would fast until he raised his $1,000, or ask somebody to write a check from the Jesuits. He did well. I had a cooperative homeschool at the community center, and every Tuesday any students that wanted to would come to Mass, and then afterwards Father Marty would come and do a little catechism class with them. Both Marty and I liked studying the saints, but we like the modern saints, I think, because there's more documentation about their sins, and so we can identify with them a little bit more. And so we started doing some retreats about saints, and it was just fun. And they were small, little retreats, but they were just a lot of fun. And it's amazing to hear everybody talk about all the different ways Father Marty was involved with them, right? Because, oh my gosh, how did he fit all this in? And one of the things he did that it's just funny and talk about very small, but when there was the nuclear arms agreement, Marty had already been involved in so many social justice demonstrations and marches and all sorts of things. And so then there's this nuclear arms agreement, and we thought, well, this is really pretty fantastic, but we're all marching against nuclear arms, but who's celebrating that this happened? And so we started, I called Graciela Sanchez from the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center, one of the San Antonio's radicals, and I called Father Marty, and Rod and I tried to call some people. Let's meet at the Esperanza Center. We'll have a toast. Is it vodka? What are the Russians into? So we brought a bottle of vodka, and there was Rod, there was me, there was Graciela, and who else? Father Marty. We had a big toast to the Russians for nuclear disarmament. And isn't it great, all the just different avenues that he has entered all of our lives? So again, thank you to the family, as others have said, for sharing Marty with us. We certainly love him so very much.
My name is Julie McGuire, and I am married to one of the nephews. And that one right there. When I first met Uncle Pat, we call him Uncle Pat in the family. I was a teacher in Lytle, Texas. I'm from Lytle, Texas. I taught 10 years in Lytle High School, and for me, that was my mission. I was making state base and living at home, and that was my mission in life was to be a public school teacher. And so, you know, that was something that we had talked about, and just at family gatherings, just kind of meeting Father Marty on, you know, just kind of this surface basis and talking about teaching and talking about being in public schools and the things that they were doing at Lanier. And I had done some of my student prep at Lanier because I went to St. Mary's University. So I knew the school and you know, so it was just exciting to see all the things that were happening with this church and with Lanier and things that we could do in my hometown. And so we were sitting at a JV get-together, and we're going around telling our stories. And I said, yeah, and actually it was the very first one I'd been to, and that's when I found out how Uncle Pat got his name, Pat. And so I said, yeah, I'm a public school teacher. I teach government economics at Lytle High School, and when I'm resting, I, you know, direct the one-act play, and I'm the speech coach and twirling sponsor, and that means you keep 4 girls from fighting. So what? And so then he starts asking me, well, what's the demographic of your school district? Well, just so happened we were up for state accreditation audit, and I was on the committee, and I was supposed to present. I said, well, we are 70% Hispanic, we are 80% underprivileged, we are 72% on free lunch, blah, 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 and I'm reading off. And I said, and we're the 11th poorest school district in the state of Texas. And he said, oh, you work with the poor? I'm so proud of you. So our relationship went to a whole new level after that. It's hot.
Well, again, as kind of the oldest living relative, I want to thank Guadalupe and Father Michael for this wonderful, wonderful celebration. I mean, it was over and above any of our expectations. And certainly thank all of you for coming. Hope everybody gets a little memorial card that, again, you know, the Jesuits and Guadalupe have provided. Come finish up the food. The family did provide the wine. The church provided everything else, the wine, the beer, so come and enjoy. Thank you again.